Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I want to quickly introduce myself. I'm Brian Davis with the Frisco Chamber of Commerce. I'm the Director of Membership, and I am also joined with Chris Lee, our Manager of Government Affairs. We are going to be talking about nonprofits today as we continue along on our industry roundtables that we've been doing now for the last several weeks. We've got a great panelist, and I'd like to introduce them real quickly and then have them tell a little bit about themselves and their organizations. We have Jerry Chambers, Community Foundations of Texas. We have Nicole Burr, Frisco Family Services, and we have Heather Canterbury with Frisco Fast Packs. And real quick, another little thing is if you all are attendees, please feel free to use the chat or the Q&A.
Did we lose Brian?
Uh-oh.
We lost a little bit of connection with Brian. So Brian, if you want to do if you want to use the Q&A to where we just picked you back up.
I am sorry. So we want to encourage you guys to ask as many questions as possible. We want you to be involved, get as much information out of our panelists and really understand the nonprofit industry, how it's being affected. What are some best practices? What's working? What's not working? And what changes we've seen. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and I'll just start kind of in the order I see it on the screen. So Jerry, if you want to go ahead and start out, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization. We'll go with you first.
All right, super, Brian. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Frisco Chamber of Commerce for having this panel today and for what I think is a very, very important discussion during these interesting times that we're having. I'm Jerry Chambers with Communities Foundation of Texas. Communities Foundation of Texas is one of 30 communities foundations in the state of Texas. We are the largest and have been around since 1953. We have had our main headquarters in Dallas, and in October of 2018, we opened our satellite office in Collin County in Hall Park. And so we are thrilled to be in Frisco. We are thrilled to be in Collin County, and we are about doing the business of CFT here. Most people may be familiar with CFT from North Texas Giving Day. We've been doing that now for almost 12 years. And we'll be having our next one in September of this year. But we are all about connecting those who want to make a difference in the community with community need. So we are a nonprofit, and we work to help donors connect to other nonprofits in meaningful and strategic ways.
Thank you, Jerry. And Heather, go ahead with your intro.
Hi, everyone. I also want to say thank you so much to the Chamber for having me today. I'm honored to be here with Gary, two other nonprofit leaders who I know are working really hard during these times. I'm the Executive Director for Frisco Fast Packs, and our mission is to ensure that children in Frisco don't go hungry when school isn't in session. And the way that we do that is by providing a weekend meal pack that equates to the 7 potentially missed meals over the weekend. We traditionally distribute those out to the counselors, and the students take those home to enjoy and prepare over the weekend. In these times, that's completely changed, and I'm sure we'll get more into that. We've been here since 2013, started by a concerned mom, a concerned citizen, as a lot of nonprofits start, and wanted to make a difference in the childhood hunger space in her city, in her backyard. And we've grown a lot over these past 7 years, from starting one school, and now we're a district-wide program. And once again, just happy to be a contributor to the conversation.
Thank you. And our neighbor, Nicole.
Hi, neighbor. Thank you so much for hosting this really, really important topic today. I'm Nicole Burr, Executive Director of Frisco Family Services, and we have been around for 26 years. And our focus is really helping those in our community who are facing homelessness, and other urgent needs, improve their life and achieve self-sufficiency. And we do that in a number of ways. We do it by providing a continuum of programs and services for families. Most of our families are coming to us because they've been impacted by an unforeseen crisis situation. So we provide the basic, essential human needs that people need such as, rent, utility assistance, those sorts of things, as well as Frisco's only community food pantry to provide families with the ability to access food. And they're able to do it in a client choice kind of way, just like, all of us, you go to the grocery store, our families are able to do the same. And so that's Frisco Family Services.
Thank you, Nicole. So you're all doing very important things and you're helping out the community tremendously. I first want to just start out with, talking a little bit about the state of the industry, where you were at the beginning of the year and what's changed since. Obviously, we've had a lot of change. So if you can just start out with sharing, what it was like starting this year and where you are right now. If you want to start, Heather, I'll let you go ahead.
I think in 2019, everyone was really looking forward to 2020. I don't know what that was about 2019, but everyone just couldn't wait for the calendar to roll over. Little did we know what would be here now. So we were at a clip of about 950 students every week that we were serving. And now we're up to over 1,600, close to 1,700. And it's just been like drinking from a fire hose, really. Right after spring break when everything hit, and we got that first call from FISD that they weren't going back for extended spring break, and just kind of went from there, and it started growing from there. We've experienced about a 30% increase in services, and we're just very fortunate to be in a community that cares about its residents and to be here in Frisco and wants to help out, wants to dig in and get involved. So our volunteer needs have really changed as well. Just how we're distributing the bags, how we're handling things in our warehouse. So we're very fortunate.
So I'm going to ask a real quick question for you, Heather. Where is most of the kind of the funding and the resources that goes into what you do? Where does that come from, and how has that been affected as well? I want to throw that question out to you just real quick.
So we receive private donations of food and funds. We don't receive any government funding as of yet. So it's probably about 60% private donations, 10% corporate, and then the other is a lot of in-kind services, in-kind food, from food drives, places of worship, businesses around town, sports teams. We've had a lot of businesses that are cleaning out their shelves saying, can you take our food? All the kind of pantry items, and a lot of just large industry catering services, different things that have reached out. But we get a lot of food drive during the year.
How about you, Nicole? What was the state of your industry getting, and what's changed?
Okay, so 2020 has been real interesting. And so initially we started out the year in January and everything was normal. And then we started hearing about this pandemic and all that's going on. Of course, not in the United States, but everywhere else. Well, probably about February or so, after we continued to kind of hear the rumblings, we immediately started planning around, and I got with my leadership team to say, okay, we really need to start thinking about this in the event that all that is anticipated really does happen. So while it feels like the bottom fell out in March, it started to fall out a little bit, I would say, for us, around the later part of February, as we needed to start kind of planning around this from a crisis management standpoint, without really knowing and with doing all of your day-to-day, but with the anticipation that this would come. And so around mid-March or so, it really truly was a reality. And we really had to have plans in place. And so we were literally having COVID-19 briefs twice a day, in the morning and the afternoon, and trying to figure out what this really meant for our organization in terms of our staff, and how do we be safe? How do we meet the needs of clients? How do we still maximize the use of volunteers and keep donors in the loop and all of that? So we were still kind of anticipating and all of that and dealing with that. We also had our largest fundraiser of the year, which is our gala plan for March. And so we had to cancel that. It was the right thing to do. And it was before everything closed, but you know, it was just the right thing. And I'm just a firm believer that when you do the right things happen. So we had to cancel that, recognizing that that event is a $300,000 revenue generating event a year. So we did that. And then we just, you know, as things began to close, we began to see a real influx of people coming in. So for an organization like ours that provides immediate needs, typically during the months of January to about April or so, we'll see a little bit of a decline in the number of people that are coming in because most are getting their income tax refunds. So they wait because like most people, you know, you want to wait until absolutely there's no other options before you get help, although we encourage people not to do that, but it's just human nature. And so what we began to see was those times where we would have a little bit of a reprieve, if you will, financially, as well as from a service provision standpoint. We didn't have that because folks were coming in like never before because they didn't know they were going to pay their rent and utilities and feed their families because they had been laid off. So literally in the midst of dealing with the increased number of individuals coming in, we also had to forego having volunteers on site. And during any given week, we have anywhere between 85 to 100. So our small staff of 14 became it all for everything that we do. Our client choice food pantry became a drive-through grocery pickup where we had to prepare meals like a spaghetti meal and provide everything you need to prepare it. So we really had to rethink the way that we do what we do. And it was not just happening daily, it was happening hour by hour in some instances.
Wow, that's amazing that you guys were able to adapt and transition so quickly and help so many people. So how about you, Jerry? Can you tell us a little bit about how you guys have been impacted and how things have changed since the beginning of the year and where you were then and that person now?
You know, at the beginning of the year, you know, everyone wanted to leave 19 for 2020, and North Texas, especially from an economic standpoint, was sitting very strong. Suddenly this hit us. And so we as an organization had to pivot very quickly. Our philanthropy team went into overdrive to figure out how we could be making up the need. And we pivoted in a way that caused a lot of great creativity and also collaboration. So several things, kind of jump ahead a little bit for the discussion. We realized that all of these nonprofits were going to be needing extra funds and needing to go to someplace. And so over 30 funding organizations, which Communities Foundation of Texas, United Way, and many others got together to have a one-stop application portal. So instead of nonprofits having to go and try to apply for everybody to try to get funding, there was a one application, a relatively simple application that they could submit to, and then the funders could then look at and then begin funding back to. And I believe both Frisco Family Passbacks and Frisco Family Services were beneficiaries of that process, so they can talk about what that was like for them. But, you know, and the need has been great. We've had many more requests for funding than what we've been able to fund at this point. But we're working on it and hoping that the generosity of people will prevail. We also decided another collaboration that was wonderful was we do North Texas Giving Day every September, and United Way has a Giving Day in November after Thanksgiving, and we combined forces to have an extra within less than a month. With the help of United Way, Dallas Cowboys, and Community Foundation of Texas, we had a one-day Giving Day, May the 5th. It was North Texas Giving Tuesday Now, and it was another opportunity for nonprofits to benefit, and over $20.7 million was raised to support. And I was excited when I came to see it. I'll share this little insight. Dallas County was the highest recipient of funds, and then it was Tarrant County, and then Collin County. And I'm a little competitive, and I was irritated, like, why is Collin County not up higher? We didn't do anything special, but on North Texas Giving Tuesday now, I can happily tell you that Collin County leapfrogged Tarrant County in the number of donors and the number of nonprofits that received benefits. We want everybody to win, but I was excited to see that Collin County stood up and did so great on that day. But turn it over to Nicole and Heather to say about the North Texas Cares process and how that worked and benefited you guys would be great to hear.
Mm-hmm. Well, for Frisco Family Services, it was a pretty easy application process. And of course, the funds were absolutely a true benefit and a blessing to our organization. And I think, for us, we really appreciated just not having to jump through a lot of hoops, recognizing that as a nonprofit, as nonprofits, we're really trying to do a lot, at the time. And so not having to have a lot of hoops to jump through made the process a lot easier. So better and beneficial for us.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Nicole said. It was very streamlined and easy, just very minimal needs, paperwork wise, and the application was very easy online. With the funds we received, we were able to distribute 11,000 meals to children in need here in Frisco. So thank you to Terry and Communities Foundation and all the foundations that were application process.
Hey, Jerry, real quick on that, if you don't mind, when you get a chance, if you put the link to that application in our chat feature, we just had a question.
I saw it. I do also want to add that it is a revolving application process. So it's not one that there's a deadline for. It's going on. So Frisco Family Services and Frisco Fast Packs, should a month now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks, whatever, another need come up that you weren't expecting, we're encouraging nonprofits to go back again and express that. So this isn't just a once you get money, you're done. Again, there's more asks than there is money, but we really want to make sure that we are meeting the need as best we can. And I'll put that website on the chat right now.
Hey, Chris, I think we do have a question in our Q&A that I want to get to, and everybody that's out there watching, I know we have nonprofits of all different sizes. I want to encourage you, ask these questions because we're going to be presenting them to the panelists and making sure we can get as many of your questions answered. So Chris, if you want to go ahead and give that question out, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So our question is, have you seen a decrease in donations from private individuals, and if so, by what percentage? So I'm sure Nicole and Heather and Jerry, you've all seen a little bit of a change, and I know the North Texas Tuesday Giving Day, now I got that all wrong, but that Giving Day I'm sure helped a lot, but there's I'm sure campaigns that each of you are doing in your respective organizations. What is the change in individual donations that you've seen, and by how much?
Yeah.
And Nicole, we'll start with you.
Okay. I would say donations by individuals have been incredible. When you talk about the pandemic, I mean, in terms of community awareness and what that really means has been huge for us. And we have, oh gosh, by multiple hundreds of percent, I would say, have increased the number of first-time givers. And that's been huge for our organization. So I think because with the pandemic, everybody is impacted by it on some level. If it's not personally, someone, and it's just something that everybody can identify with. But I think that, I would be remiss without saying the reason is that we've really done all that we know to do to educate our supporters and those in the community, so that they know not only what the need is, but how they can help us. But I think from an individual giving standpoint, people have been very generous.
And Heather, if you want to go next.
Same thing. Once again, talk about the Frisco community and just the sense of community. People want to give where they live. They want to get involved where they live. And during this pandemic has been no shortness of that for sure, in the way of volunteer hours and donations. We've seen tons, hundreds of new donations, new donors. And and a lot of recurring donations, people setting up that recurring donation, which we typically don't have a lot of. We have people that give, but they don't just set up the current recurring donations. So I would encourage people to do that for any of the nonprofits, you know, even if it's $25 a month. But we've definitely seen that. And I think that it is something that's kind of touched everybody, whether you did know somebody or your kids had to stay at home and your life completely changed, or you're now not able to go visit family. I mean, it was just, everybody had a sense of it affecting their life in some way. And so I think we had a lot of volunteers that couldn't come out and they wanted to be able to help their way. And so then they started donating instead of giving their time. They couldn't come out if they were high risk. They had, you know, a pregnant daughter. They had, you know, whatever, taking care of grandkids. We had a lot of different situations, or they're, you know, immunocompromised themselves. We had a lot of our volunteers start giving in that way. So it's been phenomenal. It's been really great to just see the community really come together.
So, you know, one of the things you mentioned, Nicole, was that you had to cancel your gala, which was a big deal. And we're seeing that. We have a question right here in our chat. It says, you know, what are your fundraising plans for the future? Do you plan to reschedule your fundraisers? I think a lot of nonprofits are looking at that, trying to figure out, hey, how do we handle these fundraising events? And so if you can share any ideas or things that you think you're going to be doing, you know, we've got so many new parameters in place as far as social distancing that kind of affects the way we're going to be doing events. Please share any plans or ideas that may be helpful to other nonprofits out there. And I'll go ahead and start with you, Nicole, and then Jerry after that.
Yeah. So in terms of our gala, what we did was we reached out to, and we, you know, picked up the phone and contacted our sponsors and shared a little bit about the fact that we had to cancel the gala and why. And then we asked them if they would be willing to allow their gala support to go toward our response to COVID-19. And unanimously, all of our supporters, sponsors said yes. Those who had purchased tables said yes, because people get it. But the key is you've got to be proactive. You have to pick up the phone. We can't just rely on an email, but that's when relationships matter. And that's why relationships matter with donors and supporters. So when you reach out, they get it, they understand. Our raffle that is a part of the night, we're going to do that virtually. And so we're planning to have that at the end of the month. And then also we're doing our silent auction, which we would have had at the gala. We're doing that virtually as well. So it's just being open and flexible to the changing times. And, you know, we just can't be stuck as a nonprofit. You just can't be stuck. You have to just really think about and strategize on what you have coming up. We have a golf tournament coming up June 15th at Stonebriar Country Club. And we've had, you know, meetings with them to talk about what, you know, if there would be changes and what those changes would be. But the key is having open dialogue and communication with your supporters, with your venues. Also key is knowing what's in your contracts. And when you sign contracts for venues, looking for things like the act of God clauses and those sorts of things. And so because that existed, we were able to get refunds for all of our expenses that we had put out, or at the very least, get those carried over until the next year. So that's key. And then we're just really looking as we go forward from a fundraising strategy, just kind of what our events, we're staying, you know, just mindful of what we're hearing, the factual information, and just planning accordingly. But we really, you know, none of us really know the impact of what this will be or mean on many different levels. And we're just trying to plan in advance to the extent that we can, recognizing that our fundraising events help us to meet community needs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, Jerry?
I think one of the things that's really important for nonprofits to be aware of and for donors to be aware of is that many times donors give and they give for a designated piece. that we want this to go towards X, or we want to go toward capital or what have you. And during these times, it's a great opportunity to have that relationship with that donor and say, would you be willing to release that needed fund to free up money that we need right now? And that's really kind of I'm seeing it happen all the time. I think it's a really important component to that. I think it's also really important to recognize that everyone's a donor, everyone's plan, and be welcoming of every amount, and how important that is. And what Nicole said, the relationships. I mean, picking up the phone and calling people, telling them the story one by one. It can be very time consuming, but it is that relationship piece and letting people know what's going on, and knowing how much you appreciate what they're able to do. And then also being able to be creative and pivot. We are definitely going to have to be thinking differently. We as an organization are very relationshipal, I'll make it and we are all about events. We're all about events. And so we actually had a call this morning talking about how do we pivot on that? One of our big events coming up in September is Freedom Day, where we have, thousands of employers have a giving day where they're out doing mass volunteerism. Well, that's not going to happen. What does virtual volunteering look like, and how do we make that work? So this is an opportunity to think about this business a little bit differently than what we have in the past, and we're going to go with opportunity for it to be better as we move forward.
So, real quick question for you, Jerry. I think we might have skipped over you when we were talking about the fundraising and maybe seeing decreases in individual giving. It sounds like Nicole and Heather have had very positive experiences when it comes to individual giving. But in your role at Communities Foundation, what have you seen as far as individual donations or corporate sponsors coming in? And do you see more of that? Do you see less of that? What's that trend like?
We've been seeing incredible, a great amount of people making great contributions. We have fund holders, and so they make their donation to CFT and it sits in a fund, and then they can decide how they want it to go out. And I would say the metrics for where we were this time last year, our fund holders have given almost twice as much money away, is what they normally do. Corporations that are calling us and asking us how they can be helpful, and be very, very generous. One of our favorite projects that we've done in the last few months is something called, I have to say it slowly, it's called Get Shift Done Fund. Say it slowly. And it is a creative process of matching donors with, we have so many hospitality and restaurant workers that are now without jobs. And so they are going to get paid to work with nonprofits that work with food. So they get paid to do that. And then the funders step up to pay that money. So it's paid volunteers, if you will. And we've committed over $3 million for that one project alone. And then the other thing I'm proud of is that project is now scaling across the United States, and Washington, D.C. is starting something. It's founded here in North Texas, and it's going to El Paso and Washington, D.C. And so we're really excited about just that creativity, and then people just being generous to make those creative projects happen.
That sounds like an amazing program. I do have another little bit of a follow-up. If you're a nonprofit that might not be seeing the same trends that everybody here is seeing, what are some recommendations that you might give to those nonprofits to try to turn things around?
You just have to work hard. I mean, that sounds really, work very hard and work those relationships. There were several nonprofits that participated in the North Texas Giving Tuesday Now. Yes, it takes practice to say that. That would like, in fact, one I know, a performing arts organization that said, we're going to be really good if we make $5,000, but they put in there, that day. And they put out a compelling note to their donors and put it out there, utilizing social media, and they ended up with over $11,000 that day. So twice and then some of what they were expecting. So I think you just have to work hard, leverage those relationships. It is really hard with your businesses on pause because you're a arts organization or a museum or something like that. But just be thinking and projecting and leaning into it as best you can.
How about you, Heather? either what Chris just asked there or about fundraising? I know events, if you had to make any changes, how has that affected you? Things of that nature?
Yeah, so we have an Empty Bowls dinner every year, and it was February 27th. So we got that in by the skin of our teeth, and we are so thankful. That was only our second one. We have one major fundraising event a year. We have other things that benefit us, but that's our one event. So we were so thankful that we got that in under the radar. We did have a golf tournament also that got canceled. Talking with Stonebriar now, that's been rescheduled to September 1st. It was supposed to be in May, and that's the Frisco Bowl golf tournament that benefits us and Boys and Girls Club. So we've had that canceled, and then we've kind of had to look at, with the funds that would have been raised from just other little small things that would have benefited us. We started a use your noodle drive where we're doing mac and cheese and ramen noodles, raviolis, things like that. And I'm just trying to be creative. We've got a summer challenge coming up. We're going to be announcing next Wednesday, partnering with Frisco Station on that. We're really excited about. So more to come on that next week. So.
Awesome. Excellent. So, one of the things, as you guys have given some good information, great things coming from all the changes you made. Can you share some things that, there's always a silver lining in everything, right? So you might have discovered something new that's really working, or that's going to be a permanent change that you might be able to share that would be a great tip for some other nonprofits. I'll go ahead, Nicole, if you want to start us out.
Mm-hmm. I would just say, well, kind of what's working or what's worked is the media attention around this, and just bringing awareness. I think it's really caused just our community, our metroplex, our nation, our world to really think about nonprofits in a different kind of a way, as really being really first responders in some instances, especially those that provide basic human needs. I think other positives that's come out of this is the community coming together. I mean, it's been incredible to see families and companies and businesses, everybody doing it in a way that is healthy and safe. I mean, just all the parades we've had. For one example would be that a young lady, she was turning 12, and so instead of gifts, she had a parade, and they invited folks to come and do like a little ride by for her birthday, and she had her guests donate most needed items. But I think just the community coming together and everybody just looking at what can I do as an individual to help, and doing that has been huge and beneficial. Also, I think the outpouring of just grant support and support to nonprofits around this issue has been good. And then I think overall, just really staying vigilant with your message and getting the message out there. On an operational side, new ways of delivering services to our clients. We've been doing case management, and that really gave us a good trial at what we might need to do in the future as our community continues to grow and we have more advanced aged individuals or those that may have a disability of some sort. So we've been able to kind of gain new ways of seeing and doing that we can implement now at a moment's notice. And now what we're developing is a playbook for how to really deal with these types of situations when they come. Because if they don't come, we probably would not have had, some of the opportunities that have been made available to us to change and to be flexible.
Very good. Thank you, Nicole. Heather, have you discovered any great new processes or anything you can share with some of the other nonprofits that have come out of everything over the last few months?
I think one of the main things is just what you can actually do virtually.
We're all figuring that out.
Yeah, prior to March, we all thought we all had to sit in a room and around a conference table to be able to get anything done. You know, you're meeting about your meeting all the time. And so I think that being more in a virtual world now has really allowed us to engage with our supporters, our donors, our volunteers, and our board engagement, I would say, has really increased. It's just been phenomenal to watch them just really want to dig in. How can we help? Our board engagement is the best it's ever been, and we're not even all in the same room. So who would have thought that? I also think too, like Nicole said, we've all talked about this on the call of just the community coming together, just staying in communication with your supporters, with your message, your brand, and just you got to be the microphone in the community for your nonprofit, and you have to have other people out there doing that for you as well. And I think good partnerships, a lot of that's come out of this. I know for us, businesses in town, you know, faith-based community, just a lot of new partnerships. And so I think it's just nice to be one of the nonprofits in town that people know and they trust and want to give back to. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm curious if, you know, you guys, everything that you're doing, it's the people that you're serving have been impacted directly. But what about those nonprofits, maybe that it's not related to what's been going on, that may be struggling, whether it's around arts or climate change or something completely off topic where there's no immediate need right now where people are seeing it? What advice do you have for them? Jerry?
Hard question. Thanks there, Brian. Appreciate you. You know, I was talking to a nonprofit leader today for someone who has a museum, and they're pivoting. They're figuring out how to do their museum experience virtually. And they're looking at, they you know, are used to having field trips. So how are they going to be able to bring the field trips to the classroom? So that, I think that answer about the technology and the virtual piece, same thing with the arts. I mean, the arts are in a different, you know, we just have to be thinking differently. We also, I think it's very important that we be thinking about our collaborations and who we can be partnering with. We're very aware of areas and territories, if you were, but the need doesn't, you know, the need doesn't have that. And in fact, Nicole, this to you, I understand there's the food pantries are all working together to have a fundraiser, a combined charity presence. Frisco Family Services is involved in that. The Collin County food pantries are coming together, promote together, you know, to help tell their stories together. And so I think those who feeling like they're left out, or they're feeling like they're trying to figure this out, is make connections. You know, find somebody else who's doing something to you, and how you all can partner together to help that process.
Very good. That's very
Several
good.
nonprofits. I think we have several nonprofits in town that are doing that. I know Melody of Hope's doing like Friday night concerts, and Frisco Association for the Arts, Tammy's having her Ladies Who Launch, you know, on Facebook Live, and still having her speakers. And so I think a lot of them are pivoting to virtual and just trying to still stay engaged with their audience. And for us, we're having to stay engaged. I mean, our services are ongoing, but others, you know, aren't able to provide services right now. I know my daughter's taking her art classes online now instead of going into the class. So I think that some really phenomenal organizations out there doing some really great work.
Well, great. We have, looks like, Chris, another question in the Q&A. You want to share that with us?
Yeah, we had a question about technology, and I know, Jerry, you touched on it a little bit, but other than Zoom meetings, what are some specific technologies that have helped you pivot? For example, Nicole's playbook, what technology has helped with that kind of stuff?
Well, our playbook is really kind of our operational playbook that we're building. But for us, it's utilizing Zoom for meetings. I didn't even know, I had no clue about Zoom before all this. So, but I think that really is the biggest piece. And I believe Microsoft has Microsoft Teams, and some folks are using that, you know, as well. So from a technology standpoint, that's key. Also having cloud-based systems so that no matter where you're at, you can access any documents or you can essentially work from anywhere. I think that's a key piece. And a lot of times as nonprofits, we don't necessarily put money into technology. And I think that, times like this, remind us that putting money into technology isn't just a nice to do, it really is necessary. Because as a nonprofit, not being able to meet a need or do what you do for even a short period of time can really impact you in huge ways. So I would say for folks that may not have a lot of technology or are not using technology in a lot of ways now, begin to look at what, begin to think about a technology plan and look at where you're at and where you want to be. And it may take some time to get there and phase it in, but these are a lot of things that as we've grown as an organization, we've really had to look at over just the last few years. And we're not super technology driven, but we're significantly more technological than we were even 6 or 7 years ago.
I would add, this would be a great time for some nonprofits to really get their CRM system fine-tuned. It's a great time to clean up contacts and go through and make sure you have accurate information. I mean, this is something to do. Also figuring out your social media and marketing plans in terms of, everyone's online, everyone's on Facebook, and people want to hear the good stories. So make sure your good stories out there in whatever way you can. It's a great opportunity to leverage that platform as well, not just, yes, to Nicole's point, what was new? Yeah, who knew what it was?
So we have a few more minutes left. I want to encourage anyone that's out there in the attendees world to ask any last questions you might have so we can try and get those answered. You talked about collaboration and really partnering with other nonprofits and other organizations to try and find new ways. Is there any central place or any great places, resources that will help these nonprofits to find some of those partners? Is there anything that you might want to suggest?
Well, I would suggest people always, I would suggest, you may not know what's out there. We have over 3,000 nonprofits that are on our North Texas Giving Day website. So you can go to northtexasgivingday.org. You can check out the 3,000 nonprofits. If there's a food pantry that may be in another community that you haven't worked with, it's a great chance to learn about them and see their stories there. And that's a great way for you to find out who else might be doing similar to what you're doing, and at least pick up the phone and call and figuring out how you can learn from each other. So that's a
Perfect. Any other questions there? It doesn't look like we do. Wow, I really appreciate it. I want to finish on a positive note. So, which is really, actually, it sounds like you guys had a lot of positive things. So if you just want to just finish out telling us, things that are really working well, what you see over the next 6 months, that's going to be a great things here in Frisco, and just share that, and we'll finish it with that.
Well, I'll just give you a little statistic to end on a positive note. Through that North Texas Cares portal that I told you about, I did a little research today, and Frisco nonprofits alone have received over $106,000 from that venue. And so that's a pretty exciting thing that the money is coming back to Frisco, and money, people are recognizing the need and meeting that. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Very good. Very good. How about you, Heather? Any great positive news outlook for the next 6 months?
Well, we are going to be doing a summer program this year. We've never done one. We're going to be providing that to the FISD students in partnership with Frisco ISD. So we're excited to roll that out starting in June. So that's kind of horizon. Our operations, operational wise at the warehouse, usually kind of slows down through the summer. Our volunteers get a little time off. We're going to be continue to keep this bus moving down the road in June. So we're excited to do that and just see what new opportunities come from that, and challenges too. It's always good to learn from everything and figure it out along the way. There's a lot of other great summer lunch programs that we look to just see how do they do it, what's going on. As Jerry said, there's always a nonprofit doing the same thing you're doing, maybe in another city, another state. Just look at best practices and, reach out to them and say, how do you do this? How do you tackle that? I think the nonprofit communities can always partner in that way, just to provide resources to each other. So I've definitely experienced that here in Frisco, and it's been great. Help us grow Frisco Fast Facts.
All right. Thank you so much, Heather. Any final notes from you, Nicole? I know you got big things going on too.
Lots of stuff going. Well, the first little word of wisdom or what have you would be to realize that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And so as a nonprofit, we can get, if we're not careful, overwhelmed with the demand for all that we do, but realize that, while this happens suddenly, it's going to take a little bit of time. So just take some time to take a breath and plan. That is always helpful. And then for us, the first week in June, we'll be starting our summer lunch program that will run for 9 weeks. And we'll be providing a little over 1,200 lunches per week and weekend snack packs for kids. It's a program we've been operating for close to 14 years now. So we know that there will definitely be the additional need this summer just by nature of what's going on. So we're looking forward to that. And then we're also planning already for our back to school fair where kids will get everything that they need to be prepared to go back to school. So busy with that and building a building all at the same time.
Wow. Well, you guys are all doing great things. It sounds like you're very busy. You've been very insightful and helpful. I think people are going to pick up some good information. I know for sure this, I love the idea of the fundraisers calling all your supporters and asking them to help you now when you need it the most. And, having that relationship, we can tell that's very important. The collaboration obviously is a big deal, and the partnerships as well. So those are two very big key things that I picked up during this, and I have some other notes written down. And so hopefully our attendees have gotten a lot of great knowledge from this. And we're going to go ahead and put this out online so others can share it with other nonprofits or people you think might benefit. But again, I want to thank Jerry Chambers from Community Foundations of Texas, Heather Canterbury from Frisco Fast Facts, and Nicole Burr with Frisco Family Services. I appreciate you guys taking your time today and sharing with us. And that will kind of end it. So
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.